Dr. Jazz.
Hey guys,
Dr.
Samo here.
Jazz.
Thanks for checking out the channel and its contents. And if you feel like it, please do subscribe. Thanks so much. Enjoy the video. Bye. And thanks for finding the time. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have so many records by you actually. Like, I'm a guitarist as well, so remember buying some stuff like in late 90s by you, and it was like, oh, I love what this guy is doing. I'm a huge Grant Green fan, so it kind of reminded me the lines you played a bit. And but I want to start this talk by asking you, like, what's happening on the band leading department? First of all, I mean, the last records I heard by you were, I know the trio with Elliot, I think, and Martin, and then the cello quartet. And have you been preparing something new as well, or
Nope.
no? How come?
No, we've had all these re-releases coming up. So I moved from New York to Japan
Yeah,
about 7 years ago, and
yeah.
I'm living in Kyoto, Japan now. And so all these things like that Grant Green
Yep.
recording that you mentioned, another record that I did for King Records, with a Japanese company, Walk Don't Run.
Yep.
That was just re-released in the last, I don't know, year or two. And then a record that I did, Aja May, was re-released. So, and I think there might have been one more. And now we're getting into like all these other, there's a company talking about doing a limited edition vinyl re-release, double vinyl re-release of the Beatles
Oh,
records that
really?
I
Oh, I love
did for
those.
King
Yeah, yeah.
Records
I love those.
with Kenny Barron and I guess Kenny Washington is
Yeah.
playing drum.
And Dennis Irwin, right? I think on that
Dennis
one.
Irwin on
Yeah.
bass, yeah. And then my first record, I had the first record that I ever did. It only came out on vinyl, and it was on a Canadian label called Sonora Records. And it's a very small label, and there's only 500 copies. That was
Oh
it.
shit. Okay.
500 copies. And lots of people have been after me my whole life about reissuing that on either, I don't know, CD or vinyl or something. And I was just in New York a couple of months ago, and I went through a bunch of stuff that I had stored. I mean, I had stuff, closets full of stuff and tapes and everything. And I found the tapes. We're talking about reel to reels of that first session that I did with Barry Harris
Barry
and
Harris, yeah, I mean, sure.
yeah, those guys. So I think that's going to come out now with those tapes. It's amazing because that was in the 80s, right? So those tapes, if you were to try and if you had that machine, and some studios do, you have to search around for studios that have the reel to reel. But if you have those tapes and you put them on, you're probably going to get into those tapes and have them fall apart, maybe in many places.
Mm.
So there is a system. There's a guy in Colorado in the United States who has a system of taking those tapes, and I think what he does is he cooks them, he bakes them,
Wow.
solidifies the tapes, and then you can do something with the tapes. So that's what we're looking to do. So I have the tapes. I'm not sure if they have like a sequenced final recording on them, or if it's just all these takes from the record, from the recording session. But we're going to find out. And then I guess, I hadn't let anybody, like, anytime anybody asked me about that recording, I said, "Oh man, forget it. It's like my first recording. Like, I don't know what I was doing. Oh no, you don't want to hear. Why would we put this out again? And then when I went into that closet and I found that stuff, I found a little I could listen to, I found Yeah, I found that somebody had digitalized it and stuck it on like a little like reader for me. So I was down in Florida and I put it on and I was like, wow, this thing is pretty cool actually. So anyway, so that's going to come out. I don't know if it's going to be
Beautiful.
on how it's going to come out or anything. What do you think? Are people buying vinyl today these days? Is that like a
I
real,
would say so. Yeah, more and more. Yeah, yeah,
because the Beatles things, I think he's looking at it's Tom Burns from Capri Records.
yeah.
I think he's looking at a real limited edition, like 300 copies, two records, two vinyl, whatever you call them, records, and real limited edition. So I don't know. I hope people are interested in that, man. I remember when that first record came out, wonderful, and the
Yeah,
next one too was called 4/4
yeah,
equals
with
one.
Kenny. Yeah,
Same, but that one came out on CD later. But Wonderful never. And Wonderful, if you can find that record, it's like on eBay and stuff, it's like $600, $700. People are like, it's a collector's item. We're going to ruin that for everybody by putting it out again. But I don't know, well anyway, all that.
I think it's a good idea because I have like 3,000 CDs of my albums in the basement. Like when labels gave you CDs, and there are not so many gigs anymore, so it's hard to sell them, and but I think vinyls people still buy them on gigs and more. I would say, especially the younger generation. Like,
Oh man, but so that's what I was going to say. Those first two records, I remember going around to gigs and having a little bag and carrying like the LPs with me. Oh my God, forget it, man. It's like, it's like the era, like I remember the era. I'm old enough that I remember the era where everybody was going around with suitcases with no wheels. That's like the recording equivalent. And I found out all these cassettes when I went back to New York, and I packed I've got about 20 of them sitting here on this desk right here next to me. And I used to have this little, I did these tours to Japan every 6 months. I
hmm,
did these long tours. And that was during what they used to call the bubble. So the economy was booming in Japan. Everybody had money, everybody was spending money. And if you do a tour in Japan, you're going to get presents, people giving you presents. And we took off in a van on a tour. We left Tokyo and we went north. We went all the way up to Akita and then all the way down the other side of Japan. And I was given presents. It was crazy, but I must have been given probably 20. It was the era of the Sony Walkman. I
yeah,
must have been given 20 Sony Walkmans. And people were giving me crazy. I'm on tour, I'm on tour from New York. People giving me TVs and stereo systems and speakers and all this stuff. And I was crazy. So I used to bring back those Sony Walkmans and give them to people as
sure.
presents. It's a really good present at that time.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, these things were recorded on a Sony Walkman and they sound really good. And so, getting back to that whole thing about LPs, I listened to this. I did a week at the Blue Note with Barney Kessel and Emily Remler,
Oh
and
man.
I've got a tape of some of that. But one thing is like when we were playing, I started talking, and it was funny to hear myself be given this whole rap. But the rap was uh, at that time the Blue Note in New York on the set. I don't think they'd have that anymore. But in the second floor, they had a gift shop, and you could buy CDs and records and I don't know what else, whatever they had up there. And so I said, and by the way, upstairs you can get a copy. You get copies of my records. So I guess it was like the two records. You get copies of my records, and I said they're going like hotcakes. I said, really? Because there's a lady up there, she's got like the white hat on and she's got like a pancake flipper. And if you want the record, she just takes it and she just flips it to you like pancakes. It's like and then people were laughing. But I said, I know I'm not quite as funny as Barney Kessel. That's why he's been around for as long as I don't know, but it was kind of funny. But the records, man, I spanned like the first two records that I did for Sonora. Of course, that was records only, vinyl only. And then the first record that I did, then I signed with Contemporary Records. So the first record that I did with those guys was vinyl only. The next record, they came to me, they said, what do you think about this idea? There's this new technology. It's called CDs. And we're thinking about just as an experiment, we'll put it out on vinyl and CD. We'll see how this CD thing goes. I said, go ahead, do whatever you want. And then the next one came out on vinyl and CD. And then the fourth one, that was just 4 years in a row. Fourth one, only CD. So
Yeah,
it spanned that contemporary when I was recording for those guys, that spanned like the whole changeover in everything.
interesting. Yeah, I mean it's yeah the CDs that then came over. I mean it's but I love those records. That's with Kenny Barron. I love that band with Dennis Irvin. That self-portrait one. I think that's on Contemporary. Uh,
Yeah,
I think I have that
yeah,
one on CD actually. I think so. But
yeah.
I wanted to ask you like how first of all like speaking of your first record, wonderful. How did you hook up with Barry Harris? I mean, he's one of the legends. Is actually. I mean, like, how was that like for you? You were still like very quite young back there, right? Like in your 20s,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. I was playing with Barry, uh so I asked him if he would do a record and he was fine. He said, yeah, I always loved him. Like when I was a kid, I used to hear Barry before I was interested in playing music in New York. There was a club called Bradley's, and we used
Yeah,
to go over
sure,
to Bradley's
sure.
Sunday nights with my friends. We used to call Bradley's. We say, "Are you going to church? You going to church?" Well, that meant Sunday night at Bradley's. Plus, they let us drink when we were underage. We loved Bradley's, but and I got to hear. So Barry used to play Sunday nights at Bradley's, and Bradley's it was always either solo or duo. So Barry used to play a lot with Sam Jones
Mm.
uh, and then later Ray Drummond, who just passed away recently,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
and with different bass players. But then all of a sudden one night there was a little drummer, Leroy Williams, is in there with him, and I think that was the first time that there was drums at Bradley's. But I had played with Barry and asked him about it, and Barry could be. Uh, Barry could take his time with things, the response, and that record, it was all uh, with Sonora, it was the money thing was always kind of sketchy. So I forget how much Barry got paid, but whatever it was, they had to come up with that, um, and Leroy, and then um, there was the question of bass. I'm turning this thing off. Um, then there was the bass thing, and yeah, good. I got that off.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
Oh no.
So I really I'm trying to think who um I'm thinking Leroy Vinegar. It wasn't Leroy Vinegar. It was there was a bass player I really wanted. Anyway, I had done things with Barry, and we uh we had played with a bass player, Earl Sauls,
Mm-hmm.
several times. And so Earl Sauls uh did the record, and it was really easy. It was a really easy record. It was really, and I played with Barry around town in a couple little festivals and things, and that's how I met Tommy Flanagan. I met like Detroit was like my is my like my spiritual home because I first met Barry and then I met Tommy Flanagan and then I met Pepper Adams, and it was like um but when I when I had the idea of recording with Tommy, um, everybody said, "Oh no, no, no! Don't waste your time because now that Tommy is not playing with Ella Fitzgerald, now he came off the road with Ella. He's only doing recordings as a leader. He's not doing sideman dates now anymore." And I had person after person after person told me that. The Tommy had given me his number at one point. He had came in and heard me with Barry one night at I think it was called the Angry Squire, I think was the name of the club. And so uh, I said, well, you know what? I respect this guy more than to just like let everybody else decide that he's not going to do this record. I gotta call him and ask him. So I called him up and I was like this kid, like, oh, hello, Mr. Flanagan. I'm calling you up. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I've got this record date coming up for contemporary records, and I would love you to do it. And everybody tells me that you're not working, you're not recording as a side man, since you left Ella. And I just thought I should just call you directly. And there's silence, and then he goes, "Who is this?" I didn't even tell him my name. That was terrible. But I said, I certainly respect whatever you're doing or whatever you don't want to do. He goes, well, you're right. He said, I'm not doing any dates as a sideman. He said, but you know what? He said, I heard you with Barry. He said, I want to do this date. I'm going to do this date. And it's the only sideman date that he did around,
Yeah, yeah.
God, for so around that time, and and Tommy uh, called um, this great club in Detroit and spoke to them on my behalf. And then it was the first time that I went out to play in Detroit for
Mhm.
for a week. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, all these crazy connections and all that stuff, and that kind of led me to Pepper and recording with Pepper too, and uh, that's why I say Detroit. And then I've so many times I went back to Detroit, and Detroit really like my spiritual home. I always say that.
How were these guys like in the studio or on the gigs, like Pepper and Tommy? Like, I mean, they were like the elders to you, and of course legends. They're on
So
some of the.
great. But I never did. So the only times I played with Tommy and with Pepper were in the studio
In the
doing those
studio.
records.
Okay.
Pepper came over and played
Yeah.
at my house, but um, I mean, Pepper, when we recorded that, he was already diagnosed with his lung cancer and was, I told you, in New York, I was a kid, I was really interested in music before I played. And I used to go to the Vanguard on Monday nights, and I used to bring my homework with me. And I used to get there, I used to get there so early. They'd still be cleaning up the place. They'd clean up the place. They'd be beer bottles and just stunk of smoke. It was horrible. And I would be sitting there doing my homework, and it would be like I think they were supposed to start at like 10. Those are the old days when music started at a later time. And but the guys would walk in from Thad Jones, Mel Lewis big bands. They'd walk in and they'd talk and they'd be hanging out. They'd be having a beer, and I'd be looking at my watch, and it would be like 10:15, it'd be 10:20. I'm going, oh my God, I hope they start. And I would only get a chance. My mother would kill me, man. I would only get a chance a lot of times just to hear one tune or two tunes, and then I would have to leave. But it's amazing how many of those guys in that band that I didn't know anything about jazz. I'm talking about when I was like, I don't know, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I didn't know anything about it, but and certainly didn't think of playing jazz. But God, I ended up playing with Pepper and with Jimmy Nepper and
Oh yeah.
with
Sure.
Mel Lewis, and yeah, like um, so many of those guys, really funny kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. How did you decide for the guitar then? What's the story there? I mean, when did you say like, oh shit, I want to do this?
Mm. Well, I grew up around the rock, that was like the rock era, the rock and roll era.
Hendrix and those guys, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So my sister worked at the Fillmore East. That was a big rock and roll place in New York, right? And so I used to be able to go in there and be backstage with her. She worked for the light show. The light show was called the Joshua Light Show. And this was the old days of the light shows. I mean, this is so, they would put like, colored oil paints in water and have this thing that would beam on stage, and they do their finger in the water. And but I was backstage, man. I mean, I was like uh I was I was in I never spoke. I mean, I idolized my two main guys really were like Jimi Hendrix and Frank Zappa. I
Mm,
loved
sure.
the way. And now I think about that, and there were guys that took these incredible solos. Like they were really like these incredible soloists and great guitarists. And I stood next to Jimi Hendrix a million times.
Mm,
And but I remember I spoke to like, Noel Redding, like those guys I would talk to. But even there was a big age difference, even when I was like 16 and those guys were like, 23, 20. You don't think of like it's as being such a big age difference. But that between those kind of ages, that's a pretty big
yeah.
difference. So, and Frank Zappa and those guys, and got Johnny Winter. I love Johnny
Mm,
and Edgar Winter, and um, the only, I mean, I spoke to a lot of the guys, but so I was backstage one night, and we were listening to Frank Zappa's band, and my sister, and they come off the thing, and Frank Zappa's coming our way, and my sister's name was Jill. Jill says, "You want to talk to Frank?" I said, "No, no, 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 no. It's okay. It's okay. No, you should talk to Frank." Oh, because I had a rock band. You're asking me how I got into this thing. So I had this rock band. I joined the rock band in school, and we played a lot of Frank Zappa stuff. And the name of the rock band was Moon Unit, right? So uh, she goes, Frank, you got to come over here. You got to come over and meet my little brother. Uh, And he comes over and he goes, "Oh, oh," he goes, "Oh, isn't that adorable? He's so cute. That's adorable. I never saw anything so adorable as that." And then he took off. And I wanted to strangle my sister. I wanted to kill her. But I hadn't played guitar, and there was a group in our school, and the guitar player, I don't know what happened to him. He had bad grades or something. His parents said, "Forget it. You're out of the band. You're going to study. You're not spending any more time with this band." And they came to me. They said, "Do you play guitar?" I said, "Well, yeah. I mean, I play any guitar." They said, "Well, how about coming Monday afternoon? We're going to have a tryout. You come and try out for the band." And so I went home and I begged my father came home from work. I begged him. I said, "I need a guitar. You got to get me a guitar, Dad. I got this. They got this band. I can." So he took me right in. He said, "Come on." We went into his car and we drove to this music store in town, and he bought me this horrible guitar, this red electric guitar with a little tiny amp. And I did not. All I did was practice and practice and practice. I practiced over the weekend. I could hear these songs. I knew these songs. I could put it together. And then I got into the band, and then we played, and then we were playing like a lot. We were playing all the time, and actually had this. We won all these battles of. They had Battle of the Bands for New Jersey, Battle of the Bands for the Northeast, Battle of the Bands for the East Coast, Battle of the Bands, and we won all these Battle of the Bands. We had organ player, flute player,
mm.
natural Jethro Tull
Jethro
kind
Tull,
of.
kind of, yeah.
Doors kind of thing. We played all that stuff, Jimi Hendrix stuff, and we had a lot of our own tunes. And so we had we had won some big battle of the bands thing, and one of the judges was this guy Sheldon Harnick, and Sheldon Harnick was, I think he was one of the composers of Fiddler on the Roof. He was uh, a Broadway guy, and he asked us. He became our manager, and we started doing all kinds of gigs all over the place. And so that, but then I got into jazz. I heard jazz. My older sisters had friends who were jazz musicians. There was a great he's very famous as a doubler. His name was Rick Santalanza, and he was playing at that time. He was playing with Buddy Rich's
Mm.
band, and he would, if they had a gig, New York State or some place not too far, we would drive in his van, listen to Charlie Parker the whole way, and then I would sit and listen to the band. Um, and that was a big thing. And Buddy Rich, for everything you ever hear about him, man, he always went out of his way to be really nice to me, man. It was like
Oh,
really,
interesting.
yeah, he was really great to me, and I remember that very well. So that was where I started hearing jazz, and uh, then I really wanted to play that way, and I didn't want to play rock and roll anymore, and
Mm.
that's kind of what led to that.
Did you then like transcribe like I don't know Charlie Parker or Wes or Grant and this stuff? Like how did you learn the lines or like because did you study jazz or everything was self-taught or
No, I did. Um, I quit high school. I was in the middle of my junior year,
mm.
which was terrible. And everybody, my parents hated me. Everybody hated me for doing that. But I got a guitar teacher, Sal Salvador,
Oh
who
yeah,
was, yeah. So I was seeing Sal Salvador, and just practicing, like just doing practicing like 12 hours and 16 hours a day, just practicing all the time, and going for lessons, and hearing people play. And yeah, I was doing some transcribing. Uh, I guess I was transcribing, some Charlie Parker thing. I was learning tunes more than
yeah.
anything else. Some transcribing and some Barry Harris solos and some Sonny Stitt and some, Dexter Gordon and whatever sounded good
Yeah,
to me. I'm trying to play like that, you know.
yeah, interesting. How did you then entering the scene? I mean, like we're talking about mid 70s, I guess, late 70s. Uh,
Yeah.
how did you start getting gigs, and who were the first connections
Hmm.
the people you started to play with? Because all the legends were still alive.
Yeah.
Uh, there was lots of new cats coming. How was that like the vibe? I mean, when you started to get gigs or like the first gigs?
Yeah. Well, some of the first gigs that I ever did were with a great bass player. His name was Vinnie Burke. I don't know if you would know.
No, I don't
He,
know.
yeah, he was on a lot of Tal Farlow records. And but Vinnie Burke, man, played with everybody. And Vinnie Burke was on a TV show in the United States. It was called Art Ford's Jazz Party. It was a 1 hour show. And you've probably seen some of these videos, because there's a famous video of Billie Holiday with Lester's on there. I
Mm,
forget who, Coleman Hawkins, but Vinnie Burke was the bass player on all those things, and they had everybody on there. I mean, um, but that one with Billie Holiday, you see that, and Vinnie Burke is on the back on there.
mm,
He was very he was a, he was a crazy guy. He was a crazy guy, but he's like so great musically, man. Just strong player. And I used to go to his house, and we used to play there, and then we'd get occasional gigs. Every gig that I played with Vinnie Burke, we got fired. It's true. Honest to God, we got a gig at a party. somehow somebody wanted a group at a party, and I said, okay, well, I got a group, I got a great trio or I think we played duo at this party. And Vinnie Burke was very serious about people being quiet when the music is playing. And this is a big party. And so am I allowed to use curses on
Oh, sure,
here?
sure. Go for it, please.
Okay. We're playing, and there's this one woman, like you can hear this voice. Like you could hear sometimes, like if people are talking, there's just this one voice that just rings right through everything else. And there's this woman, and I could see Vinny's playing, and I could see Vinny looking up, and he's have this face. And it's like, and then I could see him looking up, and this is like our first gig together, and it's like, finally he stops playing, and he looks out, and he screams, "Tell that cunt in the back to shut her fucking mouth, or I'm coming back there. I'm going to shut it for her."
Oh shit.
And the cunt in the back was the person whose birthday it was. So we were out of there. We were out of there. We played. We got fired so many. We played at Kenny Barron used to have a club in New York called the Guitar, and I remember it was a big thing for me because somehow I got called to play at the Guitar. And I played duo with Vinnie Burke. And at that point, the New York Yankees were hanging out, all these old players and new players, but we're playing there, and Mickey Mantle walks in the door, right? And it's like, as soon as Mickey Mantle walks in the door, there's like the guys at the bar. "Hey, Mickey, whoa, how you doing? Hey, nice to see you. Oh, hey, Joe." And I could see like Vinnie Burke. I'm like, oh no, please, not Mickey Mantle. No, please don't tell me it's going to go off on Mickey Mantle. And it's like, and Vinny's cool. We get to the break, and I'm thinking, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God that didn't happen. And then it's time to go up and play again. And we go up and play. And then Mickey Mantle's leaving. And Mickey Mantle's like, "Goodbye. I'll see you. We're going to Chicago, and we'll see you next." And I'm just like, oh, please, like just get to the door. He's standing by the door and still talking to people. And finally he closes the door, and Vinnie Burke goes, "Yeah, have a good trip to Chicago, you fucking asshole. I'll beat your ass the next time." I mean, it's just terrible.
Oh my.
He was out of the place. He's gone. And Vinnie Burke had
Wow.
enough. But that was, yeah. So that Vinnie Burke was one of the first. There was a club in New Jersey, in West Orange, New Jersey, West Orange, New Jersey, that was called Wallace's. And there were a lot of young players were there. And it's funny because somebody this last week, I just came back from a little trip, a little tour here in Japan. And somebody was asking me, "Dude, did I ever hear of a guitar player, Vic Juris?" And Vic Juris was one of the guys that we used to play with over there at Wallace's. And there was also guys like Dave Schnitter, was a tenor player, and Valery Ponomarev was a trumpet player. And there were a lot of guys that were playing at this place. So that was a place that I ended up playing quite a lot. And I mean, who else? I don't know. Like I started, like when I did that record, Wonderful, it's like all of a sudden I was like playing a lot. Like, yeah. I mean, my career, or whatever, if you could call this a career or you call this a business, I don't know. But my whole thing, my path was very different from most people, because most people spend years and years and years working as sidemen. But I just I was playing with people, and then this record came out, and it's like I was busy playing all over.
Yeah.
And that's really like when I started playing. Like I was playing at the Blue Note, and I was playing up at the West End, and with those were great gigs, because back then it was like a week
Yeah.
at a time. The West End, I'd have a week with Mel Lewis and Dennis Irwin, or I'd have a week with Kenny. In fact, those tapes that I have sitting over here, a lot of that stuff is recorded with Kenny Barron, Kenny and Dennis Irwin, and I guess I don't know Kenny Washington, I think on there
Mm.
too. And and all of a sudden I was doing all that stuff, and then I was traveling, and traveling back then was a different thing because we were we were booked like a week in each place, you know. So this whole thing of like clubs now booking one night or
Yeah,
2 nights, it's like an extravagance now.
yeah. True.
I don't know how people can do it to get their playing together. Um, I don't know, but that like those tapes, I've got like uh, all kinds of things with like I got to Indianapolis. There were a lot of organ things going on at that time. A week with Groove Holmes, or a week
Wow.
with um, what's his name, Mel Ryan. Mel
Wow.
Ryan was still there. He moved to Milwaukee later, but
Amazing.
yeah, and all these guys, and so but a week. So that's you could do one night with somebody, and it's like you know, but 1 week to get to know somebody and to play together and to
Yeah.
that's a real learning experience.
Yeah.
You know,
And this was
but that's
primarily gigs as a band leader, right? You were doing.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's amazing. That's amazing.
and
Was it
yeah,
natural for you, the band leading stuff? I mean, because you were playing with all these, Mel played with everyone from West to, and Groove Holmes played with everyone. So we're talking about guys who were older than you, and you were the band
yeah.
leader. How was that like for you? I mean,
I'm playing with these guys, but they were all, they were all so cool and respectful.
mm,
Actually, I don't say respectful in a way that they're like, "Oh, who am I?" But I'm just saying that, they, I would watch them. I mean, I was learning from them. I had all the respect in the world for all these guys, and I appreciated so much that they would play together and play with me and um, like I remember like silly things like that gig the week that at the Blue Note that I'm talking to you about. I asked Mel. Mel was supposed to do that, and um, I guess that must maybe yeah that must have been the first time that I played with Mel. And so I said, Mel, we got to rehearse. He said, well, come over to my apartment, man. We'll rehearse. So I had written drum charts, very simple drum charts. And I go over to his house and I'm explaining to him about the drum charts, how to read these charts. I'm explaining to Mel Lewis, like probably the greatest drum reader in history, right? The big band. And I'm explaining, and we play the charts, and I'm listening to him play these. And it's like he's hearing all of this stuff like that. I mean, in 1 second, he hears it all, and then is playing all of this other stuff around the stuff that I had, and it's like after about 2 or 3 tunes, I am like so embarrassed to even bring you this music, man. Like you need to rehearse this stuff. It's like I'm really so sorry. And he said no, I want to tell you, I love your charts. Like your charts are just the simple outline
mm,
of everything about the tune. He said, and I really enjoyed seeing these charts, even though he didn't need to see any of that stuff. But so I was always learning from all these guys and watching how they handled everything, and um, you know,
it's the best way to learn, yeah. Just to be on stage with the elders. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I guess like the first really, you know, I worked with Warren Marsh too, and
Mm,
that was a real uh and I have a bunch of tapes also with Warren. But everything was late back then. Back in those days, man, I would try and go to sleep before the sun would come up. That was my kind of like thing. And I used to wake up at like 2 in the afternoon or 3 in the afternoon. And I go to bed. I had this loft thing, this loft bed. I used to climb up to this loft, and I had a telephone stuck in the corner there. And it's like I'd gone to sleep at like, I don't know, 6 o'clock, and at like 9 o'clock, the phone rings, and it's like, should I answer? And I answer the phone, and it's like, yes, hello, is this Josh? I said, yeah. He goes, this is Warren Marsh. Do you know who I am? I said, Warren Marsh, like the saxophone player? He goes, yeah, yeah, exactly. He said, I can't remember. Somebody gave him my number. And he said, I was thinking, I was hoping maybe we could get together and play. I
Wow.
said, I would love to do it, man. I would love to get together and play with you. And I said, when? He goes, well, how about right now? I said, well, it's like 9 in the morning. I just went to bed about 2 hours ago. I said, but so I went to his place. He was staying there was a hotel called Breton Hall on like 85th Street or something in the 80s on Broadway. And I went to his hotel and we played. And just the two of us, just playing
Beautiful.
lines back and forth and playing together and playing things. Um, and he said, well, Warren was very unique.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything interesting you've been playing lately? Anything different? I said, well, I learned this tune. I said, he said, well, play it for me. Play this thing for me. So I play him this thing. And I said, did you ever hear that? He goes, I wrote it. It was his all the things you are. It was
Oh yeah,
all the things you are. And I don't know where I learned it from, but I learned it from somewhere, but I didn't know who wrote it. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe that I did this.
that's
So it was,
beautiful. Yeah,
yeah. And he was
amazing.
great. He was great. I mean, he was the greatest, like, he was a phenomenal player.
Such an
Yeah.
underrated player, I think. Like many times forgotten in a sense of the realm of saxophone of jazz. I mean,
Yeah.
musicians know him obviously, but wider. Uh,
Yeah.
Beautiful
Yeah.
player. Yeah,
Oh, he's a amazing player. Yeah.
yeah. Not to take too much of your time, I just wanted to ask you also about your. We mentioned him before, Kenny Barron. I think you had like such a long musical relationship with Kenny. Probably the longest like guitarist piano connection probably he had, or maybe so that was so long. Like, how did this story with Kenny begin?
Mm. Um, I had this record date coming up, and I went and I heard Kenny. Uh, he was playing at this place, like, well, he was playing at this place on the village in the village, which I don't think is there anymore. But anyway, I went, and I always loved his playing, and I spoke to him and just asked him would he be interested in doing this record date, and he said, well, yeah, call me up, gave me a card. Everybody had cards back then.
Sure.
Um, and yeah, and it worked out. So we did that first record date for Sonora Records, which was a panic. It was a recording studio above the old Steinway piano
Hmm.
store in New York, and we got in there, and there was something wrong with the board, and I was just panicked, man. So we had booked like I think 4 hours of time, and we get in there and we can't, and we're waiting, and so they sent somebody out to try and get a part for this board, and somebody was booked right after us at the studio, so we had no possible additional time. And by the time we got everything and we could start recording, we had slightly over an hour.
Oh man,
So we just recorded everything, just
first take.
first
Yeah,
takes, and um, doing everything we could with the time that was available. Then after that we had record dates. Oh, I had so many things with Kenny. God, Rudy Van Gelder loved Kenny. I really like love just Rudy Van Gelder, either he loved you or he hated you. That was it. And he always Rudy and I got along really, really well.
Mm.
He loved Kenny. He loved it that I was doing these dates with Kenny. And all of a sudden I go in there for a record date with Kenny. I got there first. And the studio is like all rearranged. And he's got a new piano. The first time he's changed pianos ever for this recording studio. He's got a brand new Steinway in there. And he's got it set up in a booth, which they didn't used to have. And he said, this is a complete surprise. He said, Kenny's going to be the first one to play the new piano. I said, wow, that's pretty cool. And so we're doing the record, and everything sounds great. Kenny Barron, man, I mean, everything he plays is great.
Yeah.
Every take is great. He's amazing. And but we're doing the record, and we take a little break, and I go over to the piano, and there's like blood all over the piano. And I said, Kenny, what's happening, man? What's going on? He goes, oh, and he shows me his finger. His finger's like swollen up to like here. And he said, oh, he had some kind of problem with his, and then Rudy starts walking over. I said, before Rudy, we got to wipe get that off of this piano. If Rudy sees this thing, man, he's going to freak out. It'll be the end of the session. And Kenny's like, gets something and takes the blood off of it right before Rudy gets there. Oh, thank God. And when we walked out of the session, Kenny says to me, he goes, yeah, thanks for caring so much about my finger. And he said he sounded completely great, even with that.
Yeah, I love how he comps you. When you play the single lines, that he's listening so much in the space and always responds. I mean, beautiful.
Yeah. Wow, it's really great that you say that, because, and that you asked about playing with great players.
Yeah.
That's one whole thing that, for me, I think is a way of communicating with great players, or not great players, just music in general, but especially with great players, is that you have to go, first of all, the most important thing is to hear everything that's being played all together, the drums, the bass, the piano. You have to hear it all and have people that can do that same thing and can go someplace together. But with that in mind, when you play with Kenny, I place, he can tell where I'm going and knows everything, he can hear it all coming. And so I can leave lots of space and let him go. And then just, it's just, it reminds me of the first time I played with Mickey Roker, who lived in Philadelphia. I used to go to Philadelphia and play with Mickey Roker. And the first night I played with Mickey Roker, there was a guitar player was in there. I said, wow, you're going to play with Mickey. Wow, that's pretty heavy, And so we played a set, and it was great playing with Mickey Roker. I think Mickey Roker was probably the greatest musician I ever played with.
Oh, wow, beautiful.
Just so great. Just so great, the music that he played. And Mickey Roker, he goes, we finished the set, and this guy comes over, he goes, wow, that must have been hard, man. That must have been hard playing with somebody like Mickey. I said, no, it's like the easiest thing in the world, man. I mean, all I got to do is I play ba da 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 da, and then let him play and listen, lay back, and then I said he points the way to me, and that's the same thing with Kenny. It's like I could just wait for his little things, and he's like showing me the direction, really.
Yeah, it's interesting because guitar and piano can be tricky if people don't listen to each other, obviously. But with you guys, it's just like, it's like a horn player and a harmonic instrument. Many times, it's like lines and not necessarily. It's not too dense. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. the use
Yeah,
of
I like
space and
space.
space. Yeah, that's so important, man. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it's like uh it's like the way we talk, you know? It's
Yeah,
like the way we talk. We leave space, and when you leave space, creates a vacuum. People want to hear what's coming. If you don't
exactly.
leave space and people play like this and then they go on and on and on and they continue and there's no stopping, it's like boring. And you have to
Absolutely,
keep space.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, uh,
that's it.
Otherwise, are you still playing? And I mean, when I asked you, we started this with if you're still gonna record something new. I said like you said no, but you're still doing gigs, right? And gigging. And
Gigging, yeah, and I was just God, I was in New York about 5 or 6 weeks ago over at Smalls, and then I went over to France and I was over in Bordeaux for and around Bordeaux, and then I was up in Paris at Sunset.
beautiful.
And I do tours in Australia from here, and in Japan I do about 4 or 5 tours a year all over. I do some to the south, I do some to the north, and like that.
Beautiful.
And I'm going to do more. This last time in Paris, I hadn't played in Paris for 20 years, and so I had my wife is French. You know, we had this little house down in the south of France, so we used to do these tours, usually starting Bordeaux and then Bordeaux coming all the way with lots of stops in between, but Bordeaux and Toulouse and all the way out Narbonne and Montpellier, all
Yeah,
the way out to Marseille.
let's say yeah.
And I didn't get back to Paris uh, because from the south to go up to Paris and then pay for hotels and pay for it just didn't pay to play in Paris. So I hadn't played. But when I went back to Paris, it was such a I was really moved by the reception that I had, and I've had all kinds of offers for doing lots of stuff in Europe for traveling. So
Beautiful.
um, you know, yeah, I would say I'm definitely busier than ever. I'm like, working all the time here, doing a lot of teaching too. But I mean, just as far as gigs go, I just did like 10 nights and we go from Hiroshima to Yamaguchi to Kokura, which is Kitakyushu, and then a week in
Beautiful.
Fukuoka, uh, and then back, and then just little things coming up. There's some guys from New York who are up in Tokyo who I get to play with too. Chin Suzuki is
No, no.
in Suzuki. Chin was with Art Blakey
Really?
for
I didn't know that. Wow.
yeah. I used to hang around that band because that was the band that Dave Schnitter and Valery Ponomarev and those guys and Dennis
Oh yeah,
was
sure, of course. Yeah.
too, and Johnny O'Neill, all that. Um, Somebody's ringing the doorbell. Um, so that was yeah,
Beautiful. Man,
somebody's over.
next time you're in
Yeah.
Europe, drop me a line. We can get together, and we have a guest room here. You guys are kindly invited if you're with
And where
your wife.
exactly are you located?
We're in Slovenia, which is like, I mean, I live in Maribor, which is like 2 hours south of Vienna, just that you get an idea. So like between Zagreb in Croatia, Vienna and Budapest, kind of, that's it.
I bet it's beautiful there, right?
Oh, it's beautiful, man. We live in the vineyards here, so it's like, if
Oh,
you like white wine, then,
yeah, that's a real big wine area.
yeah, we're like huge with wine, this place. So very hilly, and I mean, the quality of life, it's like, yeah, I will not complain. So
Wow, it
it's
sounds
good.
nice.
Yeah. So let me know next time you're around. We'll get a nice bottle of wine and play some standards. So
Yeah, I would like to.
yeah,
Another thing, I just want to mention to you one other thing is
yeah,
that
please.
every year I do a jazz guitar workshop here in Kyoto. And it's
Oh,
like I call it the Jazz Dream Workshop because for anybody that ever had a fantasy about wanting to come to Japan, it's like a great excuse to come to Japan. But we limit it to like 8 students and 10 days, seven days of workshops, but people also like we go out to these crazy
Okay.
restaurants, great restaurants for like 4 nights, and then 2 nights we go out to clubs together, and people get 2 tours of Kyoto, which I think is about the most beautiful city in the world.
Mm.
And we do a day of like we bring in Ono Midori, who's like an insanely great organ player. I started an organ trio here
Oh,
too, so I've been
beautiful. Oh, fantastic.
guitar trio and organ trio. And so we do a day of playing with organ. We have vocalists come in and do a day of playing with vocalists. We have a great piano player come in, talk about playing duo with people or playing with piano in a group. We do all kinds of stuff. So that's something that we do at the end of May into the beginning of June. And
Beautiful.
that's another thing that we are kind of up to, all kinds of
Very
crazy.
active. Yeah, beautiful. And now you'll have to schlep around all these LPs also because you're gonna release them. So
I don't know if they're going to send them, to try and send them to Japan.
Oh,
I
that's
don't
like
know.
a fortune probably now. So
I don't know if I want to drag them around, but
yeah,
I think that he can do that. Capri Records could do that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Cool, man.
Okay. It's
I'll leave you a
great
nice
to.
what you have evening slowly there. So I'll leave you a nice evening in Japan. And
Okay.
thanks so much, man, for
It's great,
sharing it. Some of these thoughts
it's
were so
great to talk
beautiful.
to you. I
You too.
want to stay in touch and
Please, yeah, really.
learn more about what's happening with you.
Yeah, let's. If you're in Europe, like I said, just let me know in advance, and we'll hook it up, and maybe we can get a gig or two here as well. So it's easy.
Great.
Superman, stay
All
strong.
righty.
Okay, ciao,
Thank
Joshua.
you.
Ciao.
Thank you again.
You too.
Okay.